Looking back, was there any of the criticisms that you read that you may feel is now kind of fair?
No. But
I'm happy to ruin people's childhood.
No.
Out of the almost 190,000 fan reviews, more than half of which were negative on Rotten Tomatoes, none of their criticisms or opinions or reactions were at least fair, not great or accurate or even satisfactory. They weren't even fair. So The Last Jedi is perfect? Rian Johnson is either God's gift to movies or he can't even bother to admit his own mistakes. He couldn't make a comment on pacing or dialogue or plot or the change in Luke's character or even tone. Nothing? Every scene just meshes perfectly together? So the space chase of a tortoise versus a whole fleet of tortoises because weapons are ineffective at certain ranges and our fleet of ships just can't travel that fast even though when they actually do, that's totally fine. Leia magically surviving and flying through space with zero force training and re-entering a spaceship from the vacuum of space was totally fine. The Canto Bight subplot, which had no plot relevance and could have been completely removed from the story and everything would have gone on exactly as it was, is totally fine. Luke, a Jedi master in control of his emotions, creeps up on his nephew he loves in bed at nighttime wanting to kill him because he senses the darkness in him out of pure instinct, was totally fine. Holdo not telling anyone what the plan was because, I don't know, they asked, to the point of mutiny, was totally fine. Leia suddenly getting out of her coma and shooting Poe was totally fine. Holdo ramming a ship at light speed which breaks the continuity of the very idea of wars in space was totally fine. Yoda appearing after all this time and summoning lightning to destroy a tree house was totally fine. Rose saving Finn and then not dying instantly from a collision despite him wanting to sacrifice himself, and which in turn doomed the Resistance, was totally fine. Rose's inane reasoning for doing so was also totally fine.
That's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
Rose and Finn not getting instantly shot despite being stationary targets of a wreckage out in the open on the battlefield was totally fine. Finn dragging Rose across a white battlefield that leaves the red trail behind them for several kilometers that the enemy was advancing on in the same direction while the time was supposedly frozen was totally fine. Luke projecting himself across massive distances and dying of a heart attack was totally fine, and apparently his mechanical arm also felt like disappearing into a Force ghost but not his clothing was also totally fine. Luke creating Force dice and giving it to Leia for some reason and it did interact with the physical world, that was totally fine. Leia just leaves said Force dice on the ground for some reason, that was totally fine. Rey shooting 3 ships with 1 shot in the Millennium Falcon, that was totally fine. Rey levitating an entire mountaintop of boulders with a 20-second training session where she did that unknowingly with pebbles and uncontrollably cracking the earth, that was totally fine. Hubris, thy name is Rian Johnson.
Every single Star Wars thing that comes out, I've got, every fan has stuff they love, stuff they hate about it. Every movie has its lovers and its haters. Everybody's got, you know, every single one, going back to the originals.
We were so lucky there wasn't social media when Empire Strikes Back.
Oh my God,
came
Empire
out.
would have gone roasted.
But it did get criticized harshly back in the day, mostly by the critics and not so much by the fans. The difference is, what were the critics saying, and did it have any merit? Did their criticism stand the test of time? Over 1 million fans on Rotten Tomatoes love The Empire Strikes Back. It's obviously had much more time for people to analyze and come to conclusions with than The Last Jedi. What do you think is going to happen to The Last Jedi's opinion of in the next 30 years when it gets close to 1 million reviews, if it's ever so lucky?
They feel they have a sense of ownership, and I totally get that. I feel the same way, and all, you know, things don't always go the way I like them either.
It's our money, it's our time, it's our stories. We didn't write them, but we expect a certain level of quality and consistency in the value of the media we're consuming from a franchise that has certainly gone in various directions. A standard based on our previous experiences, a genre, if you will. The prequel movies were for kids, so some of those mistakes can be forgiven, but they still have mistakes in them. If you're making a movie, you give it a believable story with believable plots and characters, and you should be okay. Nothing wrong with subverting our expectations, having multiple twists, but you still have to make it believable. When every scene in The Last Jedi is a disjointed mess of either plot holes or pointlessness or outright stupidity, then you have a problem here. I'm looking at you, Finn and Rose. In The Last Jedi, Luke, being The Last Jedi, may have been played by some other character, as would Hux, as would Chewbacca, as would Holdo, as would Phasma, however she managed to survive a planet exploding, as would Leia. No fair criticism? You're telling me these characterizations are absolutely perfect?
It's that combined with a spirit of fun and adventure that makes
classic
it all seem...
escapism.
Yeah.
People want to get away from their dreary, humdrum lives. So whether it's Oz or Middle Earth or Hogwarts, you know, a galaxy far, far away. It's just a great way to be swept away into a place that's more fun than where we are right now.
So you send us to a place where things just happen and we don't understand why. Everyone or everything is so stupid, and continuity and plot threads and expectations and dramatic scenes are either dropped, completely forgotten because subversion? This is not a Star Wars movie. This isn't even a good movie or a good space opera by basic storytelling means. And the best part of this is we have to expect J.J. Abrams to pick up the mess you made and make some sense of it. The guy who's known for rebooting everything, which means he has to reboot Return of the Jedi somehow and make that somehow connect to whatever the Last Jedi plot threads were. Which should work out because the only thing that was relevant was Broom Boy.